afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Handwrytten webinar on our consumer outreach survey. I'm Amber Walsh, and I am thrilled to have you all with us today. In a world where consumer behavior is constantly evolving, understanding what our customers value, expect, and experience is more important than ever. And that's exactly what Handwrytten's latest consumer outreach survey set out to explore. And today we are honored to have our CEO and Chief Robotier, David Wax, walking you through the key findings from our survey. We'll have time for questions at the end, so please feel free to drop your thoughts into the chat throughout the session, and we would love to hear any suggestions you have for future webinars as well. And with that, let's get started and welcome David.
Hello, and thank you, Amber. This is going to be a good one. I appreciate everybody here joining and taking the time. I know everybody is very busy these days. So the purpose of this webinar is really to expand Handwrytten's scope in your lives. We want to be really a knowledge center for you and really help you make some important decisions. In my prior life, prior to Handwrytten, which started in 2014, I ran a text messaging company for 10 years. So in that time of 10 years, I did one form of messaging, and then now I've done another form for another 11 years. So over that period, I've really tried to understand how consumers like to receive these types of messages. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. So let me pull up our survey results here. We could kind of dive into the details. Well, let's go back to slide 1 here. Okay, so the Handwrytten's 2025 survey is actually let me just switch here. Handwrytten's 2025 survey is actually the second of 2. So we actually did this exact same survey in 2022. We did add 1 or 2 additional questions, but for the most part, it was the same questions from 2022. That was intentional because we want to compare the results from 2022 to today to make sure that there's some trends there. We also wanted to affirm what we found in 2022 and made sure that there wasn't any outliers. So with that, we surveyed 2,000 consumers, and in 22 it was 2001. We tried to do a pure split female to male, but in the end it came out 57% female, 43% male. Our statisticians that we hired to analyze this data assured us that that was not statistically significant, and there's some features in their statistics software they can use to kind of mitigate for any differences there. We did only communicate with 18-year-old and over United States consumers, and then we did a wide swath of economic diversity, so from low-income households to very high-income households. One thing to note, the people we surveyed were not Handwrytten customers. Hopefully some of them knew about Handwrytten, but that was not of our concern at all. We hired an outside polling company, a company called Pollfish. They ran the survey. They sent us the data, and then we hired a statistical analysis firm to really analyze that data to make sure it was statistically significant. Now, before we get into how consumers like to be communicated to or with, let's talk about how they communicate with each other. So I will move me a little bit just so I'm not in the way of the slide. Oh boy, that's not what I want. Well, we'll go back to there. So right now, it should be of no surprise that most people communicate by either phone or text. In fact, text has overtaken phone calls due to the convenience of it all. Emails, also very important. People are not sending voicemails at all. And clearly, and this should be of no surprise, people are not sending a ton of handwritten notes. Just like we don't expect people to be riding around in horse and carriage buggies, we expect them to use the latest, greatest technology. There is some outlier there, and that is with the more wealthy demographic. So anybody earning over $200,000 to $250,000 a year and above, they tend to send more handwritten notes on average than the rest of the consumer base. So they are still very active there. But we're not really here to talk about how consumers communicate with each other, although that's interesting. We really want to know how we should be communicating with them and what they think of our communication, whether this is a nonprofit or a car dealership, a law firm, a veterinarian practice, a realtor. How do they like being communicated by those brands and companies? So the first thing we asked in 2022, and we asked again today, was what forms of communication do you find annoying, and what forms of communication do you find surprising? And the results have not changed over the last 3 years. Text messages are annoying. Handwritten cards, phone calls are very annoying, and we're going to keep getting back to the phone call portion because there's some interesting pros and cons of phone calls. But the least annoying form of communication is handwritten notes. And while 4% or 80 people of the 2,000 that we reached out to said handwritten notes are annoying, I really can't figure out why they would be annoying in any small volume they're receiving them. However, it is the least annoying form of communication. One thing I want to stress is brochures, or really print mail, is not seen in the same regard as handwritten notes. Print junk mail is considered annoying. So that's something to kind of stress there. On the flip side, what is surprising? Well, handwritten notes, again, are the most surprising form of communication, partially because you'll see very few people receive them from a brand. So, and again, phone calls also surprising. And we really think that handwritten notes are surprising is because it shows, as this professor from Harvard says, it shows a deeper appreciation in the relationship than a simple thank you call, text, or phone or email would. It really shows that they've taken a few minutes to sit down and write that or do something different. Now, as far as meaningful and personal, this is where it gets a little interesting. So what forms of communication are meaningful and which forms of communication are personal? Here, the number one leader was phone calls. Phone calls are both considered the most meaningful and the most personal. However, I want to stress, and then handwritten notes were the second most meaningful and personal. However, I want to stress that if you think about what's the most annoying form of communication, or the highest risk of being annoying, that would be phone calls. So if you're trying to walk that line between highly meaningful and highly personal without being annoying, I highly suggest you consider including handwritten notes in your outreach. Now, why are phone calls annoying? The best answer I can think of is because phone calls are on the caller's time frame. It's when it's convenient for them to call you. It's not when it's convenient for you to receive it. And you don't have that same interruption experience with a handwritten note. Additionally, while phone calls can be very personal, it's certainly not going to be personal if it's a call center calling you from outside the United States or even in the United States, and it's not the representative you typically work with. So if you're a high-end luxury brand and you receive a call from your store rep that's been serving you, that's great, as long as it's at a time that's convenient for the recipient, and that's often very hard to schedule. Now, talking about handwritten notes, and there's a lot of pros and cons to it, and we've spoken about how brands, have worked on they've been focusing on email and phone calls and text messages. Well, they're also spending all their efforts there too. 72% of consumers report receiving a email from a brand, while only 11% report receiving a handwritten note from a brand. And I would say these numbers even seem high, on the email side, or sorry, on the handwritten note side, and low on the email side. Now, since our 2022 survey, these numbers have only gotten worse. In 2022, handwritten notes were received, I believe, 17% of the time, and emails were 70%. So people are continuing to double down on electronic forms of the communication that don't work and that are creating digital noise, while forgetting forms of communication that might work and really allow you as a brand or as a nonprofit to stand out. Now, when I was designing this slide, I typed in email overload, and 10 trillion little memes came up from email overload. So it's clearly, everybody's experiencing this email overload. I just chose this inbox 100,000 one. Another thing to really consider, and I touched on this with brochures. Back a few slides, I pointed out that brochures and handwritten notes are not the same. If you then say the same thing about a printed card and a printed envelope and a handwritten card and a handwritten envelope, are they the same? And they're not. A handwritten card has about a 30% greater open rate than a printed card, and about the same on the reading part. It's a 30% greater open rate than a printed card. So, print's value continues to decline, whereas handwritten notes and envelopes continue to stay the same. And we're seeing this from the changes from 2022 until today. Back in 2022, printed cards and handwritten cards, while not the same, were certainly a lot closer. But now people are really seeing that when they receive a printed piece that should have been handwritten and it's not, they tend not to open it a little bit more than they used to. Another really stark change from 2022 is the consumer appreciation level of consumers. We asked these 2,000 consumers if they feel appreciated by brands. And back in 2022, it was 17% felt appreciated by brands. Now that's dropped 500 basis points to 12%, which is pretty stark and pretty sad. I don't know if there's a correlation there between sending less personalized communication, or if it's of a number of factors, that could be leading to this. But the fact is, consumers and donors to nonprofits are really unhappy, and they don't feel heard and appreciated by brands. I'm sorry, it's down 18%, even worse, 600 basis points. Now, what happens if consumers do feel appreciated? Well, it's really no surprise here. Appreciation generates returns. And what I mean by that is they purchase more frequently, they spend more per purchase, they write more online reviews and tell your friends more about your products, services, and cause. And in fact, in the change from 2022 to 2025, the biggest changes we're seeing are really on the writing and online review and the referral network side, more so than the purchasing and the spending more per purchase. So it's interesting that if you're looking in this day and age when there's so many alternatives, I'd say that alternatives to your brand or your cause, I'd say it's more important that your consumers go out and spread the word and share reviews and tell their friends about it than ever before, because we live in a world of abundance where those consumers can go anywhere. So for them to refer you and bring you a new client is even more important. Now, the question is, how do you drive appreciation and returns? Well, I think you kind of get the idea of the theme of this presentation, but sending a handwritten note was proven to be, once again, the best way to improve appreciation. When asked what would be the best way, to increase your appreciation, 45% of the consumers said sending a handwritten note would be. So, again, we're not saying always send handwritten notes after every interaction, but we do feel that strong brands and nonprofits should incorporate this in a holistic messaging strategy. So most of you hopefully know about Handwrytten at this point. I'm not going to go into a big sales spiel, I assure you, but I do want to kind of walk through just a little bit for those of you that aren't familiar with Handwrytten. And then I also want to kind of talk about some things that you might not be aware of if you've been a long-time user and you haven't seen some of the new additions we've done. So we have been around since 2014. We've sent about 14 million handwritten notes over that time. And we have about 200 robots and counting. We have 185 in our facility in Phoenix, and then some scattered throughout the United States as well. We were started again to make sending handwritten notes as easy or easier than sending an email. These robots that we build are in our facility in Tempe, Arizona. We're proud that it's fully manufactured in our facility. Any lingering parts that were manufactured overseas, thanks to huge tariff increases, we are now moving those to Phoenix too. So it is fully manufactured and assembled in Phoenix, Arizona. We have 5 patents, and we continue to build robots to scale to meet demand. We are not just providing handwritten notes. We're providing solutions. So we help you think of campaigns. We provide you tools, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, and the integrations, I'll talk about that in a second. We certainly do the handwritten notes, and then we provide you support and reporting on the back end. This is all kind of included in our standard offering, and Amber really leads that effort, so we can bring her back on the line in just a few minutes to answer any questions there. For those of you that haven't visited our website in a bit, it's really improved. You can go on, select a card. You can design your own card for no additional charge, including full bleed flat cards, whether landscape or portrait, as well as full bleed folded cards, landscape or portrait. These cards are very, very high quality. We continue to increase the print quality right now. They look absolutely fantastic. In addition to designing the card, you can do full drip campaigns. So say, send them when somebody joins your email list or say buys a product on your Shopify store, send them a handwritten card, wait a couple days, send them another, etc., and do a drip. We have prospecting tools for residences and businesses where you can circle an area on a map or draw out your area, send a handwritten note. We have AI for sending notes with messages if you can't think of the right thing to say. And then we have birthday and anniversary campaigns if you're looking to automate birthdays and anniversaries. And those anniversaries can either be their anniversary of when they got married, or it could be anniversary of being a client or a donor. So it's really, however you want to utilize the system. With all this, there is handwritten on the web, on the iPhone app and Android app. I'm really not going to focus on it because while it's great, it's really for one-off notes. And what I'd like to say here is, everything I've talked about with driving consumer demand and building improved relationships with customers, the key here is not being a campaign. It's being part of an ongoing holistic CRM program or donor management program. And when you're part of a holistic program, it's not about mass blasts, it's about automation. And automation is good for you, it's good for your consumers, and quite frankly, it's good for Handwrytten because we're able to set you up with an ongoing program where we're able to guarantee that after every client interaction that matters, we can send a handwritten note. And Handwrytten with a Y, we're very unique in our ability to tie into these systems. So whether you're a nonprofit using Blackbaud or sales organization on Salesforce.com or an automotive dealer, whatever it is, we are very capable at integrating with those platforms so you don't even have to think about it, because we could provide you the greatest integration into HubSpot, but if you have to log into HubSpot every single time you send a note, it's not going to get used. We need to set it up in a way where when your customers hit a certain point in their journey, they're automatically receiving a note. So Amber and her team and our me certainly and my dev team, we are certainly here to help you with that process if you really want to try to automate this, which I'd say is the ultimate level of sending handwritten notes. It creates that consistent client experience. Finally, last slide. We do have a money-back guarantee. If you use our service and you're unhappy with it for any reason, we'll refund you. Our goal is to create people that love our service, not a bunch of disgruntled clients. So, please give us a shot. Find out for yourself how great this can move the needle. We didn't go so far as to include any case studies in here, but we can have a follow-on webinar if that's of interest. And that's all I have. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Amber here, who can ask some great questions from the audience. And Amber, you are on mute.
Thank you so much for letting me know. Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed all of that. It's incredible how much data we're able to get for our consumers and then give to you to be able to support all of your ability to really relate and connect with your clients. We had a question from Suma first, the website's name. So it is www.handwrytten, handwrytten.com. And you can also find us by searching for us. The other question that Suma had was if we provide any services for finding addresses from emails. And we actually have two ways that are incredible. So the first one, we can upload email addresses into your Handwrytten account, which is a free account. And we can prompt the system to email your clients and say, I want to send you a handwritten card. Please provide me your mailing address. And so the address that you get back from it, they really want a card from you, which is a really good ping for knowing who is a really great client in that moment and who really needs to hear from you. And the other way that we have to kind of find clients for you is David briefly mentioned it. We have an outbound prospecting campaign where you can identify a zip code, a city, a street address, any sort of information like that. So, for example, if you were opening a storefront, a restaurant, let's say, you could use our prospecting campaign to isolate a client population within 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, and other sort of demographic filters that we have available, and then create a message for that group, and the handwritten cards will go out to anyone who meets your requested demographics in that area. So a great way to bring in some foot traffic in certain areas if that's where you're looking to expand. Elizabeth, are the slides available to attendees? Yes. On handwrytten.com, we have a link to resources, and all of our webinars are posted on that link, and you will be able to go back and view them there. You're welcome. And then I'm not sure, Suma, what previous slide you were hoping to see. But like I said, everything will be available on our website, all of this, and the webinar was recorded, so you can rewatch it. The last question that I got, unless there are more coming in, was sent to me in the private, and it's to David. How often do you recommend sending the cards to build that appreciation without falling into that annoying side?
100%. Great question. So, two things before I get to that. With regard to the slides, I'm happy to send it out. I'd like to do you one better, which is this is all now in a PDF report, the Consumer Outreach Survey, which is available on the website. So what I will do is I will send you a link direct to that report so you don't have to fill out the form to request it. And I will send that to everybody that's on this call today so they can just pull that down. And that's a 5 or 6 page report. All the pretty graphics that I used in this presentation are from that report. They're stolen directly, so you'll have everything you need there. With regard to cadence of messaging and how often to send notes, we do not think sending after every transaction is a good idea or anything like that. We typically recommend 2 to 4 touch points a year. If you go a touch point every month or a touch point every week, it's going to lose its surprise and delight factor. Now, but what's unique about handwritten notes is it doesn't have to be 4 communication points when you want, such as, okay, we're doing a January push, a March push, etc. Instead, it should be tied to the client or donor activity. So I buy a car, I get my first note, and then maybe 3 months later, I get my second note. And then the 2 other campaigns as part of that, 2 to 4, or maybe 5 touch points a year would be birthday and anniversary. Birthday and holiday. Those are really the big touch points. So, we do have people going as high as 6 touch points a year, which is great, but we're not suggesting, filling the contacts inbox with these. It's really 2 to 4 is our typical cadence. It's a great question.
Yeah, thank you. And another one came in for you as well, David. Maybe me if he just popped off. But the question is, do you believe that handwritten cards with envelopes are better than postcards? Which is a great question, because I know in accounts I have a lot of people who do want to send postcards. So my thoughts. Oh, do you want to share your?
No, go for it. Love to hear.
My thoughts are that the envelope adds a really special touch to the whole experience of getting that card in the mail. I often think about my clients going to their mailbox, well, my clients, or audience going to the mailbox, and rifling through all of the bills and all of the flyers and all of the things that come in there, and getting that envelope. And our envelopes are they're high quality envelopes, and so they feel nice, they look nice, and they're written in pen, with a stamp, and so absolutely authentic. And to get that and then open the envelope to see what's inside, there's like a little excitement and a little build up to actually being able to open the envelope. That piece aside, there's the other piece that, again, when we go get the mail, how much of it is banged up, how much of it has like dirt spots or smudge spots from being up against newsprint. And so just the pristineness and the beauty of the card that you're sending out to your audience is a little bit more intact when you do have that envelope to take some of the hits. So it kind of allows for that card to be very presentable. Save it on your fridge, save it on your desk, or what have you, and have a really beautiful note from someone to remind you that someone was really appreciative of you. So it's that further connection as well. Anything to add to that, David?
No, you nailed it. I mean, I call it, and you probably heard me say, the unboxing experience. Yes, it's just a card and an envelope, but really is, you're flipping through your mail, you find this envelope from an address you don't recognize typically. There's nothing branding on there. And you're like, oh, who sent me a note? And then you take that time to think about it. You open it. That's that unboxing experience. It's protected because of the envelope. It's just a higher, more elevated experience than a postcard. I'm not going to say it's a less expensive experience. That's certainly much less expensive, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth that additional cost to create this elevated experience?
Absolutely. And I appreciate what Bill is sharing as well. For anyone who missed it in the chat earlier, he is with a cosmetics company and uses handwritten cards for influencers. And so at times there are postcards that go inside of product samples, which is another great use case for us. We can create the cards and then send them to you to put into product packaging or gift boxes or what have you. But that's how they do it as well. And then in addition, send the thank you cards to another touch point. We are in Tempe, Arizona, Suma. And Ron, your question is, can we personalize with data merges? Yes, we absolutely can. So we have the options are limitless when you start using data merges. And the wonderful thing about our integrations with so many of the systems that David was mentioning, whether Salesforce or Blackbaud, we have all of the merges built in there as well. And so it will automatically pull first names, car make and model, product information, whatever's housed in your CRM, we can pull into the card. So when you scale your orders out to your audience, it still remains really personal because it's addressing the person and their experience with your company or with you. Let's see here. These are really great questions. I'm so happy that you guys are also involved. With a large percentage of execs still working remote, how do you handle routing the cards to the intended recipient? So that sounds like, Jorge, maybe you're thinking about not having the addresses. My personal experience with being remote and sending handwritten cards with another large company was that I could send them to the mail stop and the HR department would forward them to people's home addresses. Otherwise, you can always just ask your executive teams for the information to the mailing addresses. And then again, we do have the feature on our website where you can upload someone's email address and they will get a request to provide their home information for you. And if that didn't answer your question, feel free to clarify or let me know that as well.
We also, to that point, in addition to uploading email lists, we have a custom link that you could send out. So it can come from your email. So if you want to send your contact, hey, I need your address, I want to send you something. And if you don't want to have them reply back and then you have to copy and paste it in, you could send them this link. That way it's coming from you, not from Handwrytten, and they fill that in, and then you will be notified that they filled it in. But what we find is that when you say, hey, I want to send you something in the mail, what's your address? People are curious. They want to know what you're going to send them. So they're not going to turn you down. And it's one more touch point for you. And then you can obviously follow up via email or phone and say, did you receive the card I sent you?
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy, I am so glad you are still interested in a few years later in becoming a Handwrytten client. And yes, your question, we still can digitalize your handwriting. So it's we have graphic artists that do it. It takes a couple of weeks, but yes, we can have the robots write in your handwriting. You will receive a sample after you'll provide us a sample. We'll replicate it, and then we'll provide you a sample to make sure it's okay. And then it's available to you to use whenever you send an order so that the robots will write in your own handwriting. It's really actually very phenomenal. And Jeremy, oh no, that was Jeremy's question. Glenn, that was the question I was looking for. I appreciate the question about our clients and whether or not we've had communication with them. We are very protective of our clients because this is a service that is helping people scale authenticity. We don't reveal who our clients are to anyone. So I appreciate the question, but we're going to protect who we speak to about this platform.
Regarding that, what he might have meant, and forgive me if I don't understand, but if it's a CRM that he's asking that if we integrate with it, we currently do not integrate with TravelJoy, but we could. Most integrations are pretty straightforward. So if that's what you're asking, we can talk to you further about that. The next question was from Elizabeth about including unique codes. Yes. So there's two ways we can do this. We could either take your codes and do a mail merge and just include those in every message. And there's a lot of ways to do a mail merge. Or we have a QR code feature on our platform where every QR code that's sent out, we're able to uniquely identify who received it. So if you create a card once on our system and it's your brand and it has a QR code, visit our website here, or maybe take them directly to a deal page, something like that, we will know that Amber Walsh received it and scanned it, but David Wax did not. Although I would, because I love the client. But that's how that would work. So we are able to track many ways, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And I'm going to make one last push for if you have any ideas for things we can host webinars on, whether it's how-tos or specific integration usage, use cases, anything Handwrytten related. Just drop it in the chat to us, and we will keep you looped in with our next webinars. It doesn't look like there's any more questions for now.
No, I just want to, well, I'll leave her on, sorry. I just want to thank everybody again for joining, the excellent questions, and certainly to Amber for all her work here. We don't do enough of these, everybody gets so busy, but we need to be doing more. So please let us know what you would either like to see in a webinar or what features, integrations you'd like to see on our platform, because both of those are really, really important for us. We are a full service company. We're here to assist you in this journey. We are a little bit of a unique company, so we want to make sure that we're helping you every step of the way. It'd be great to see a demo of the Shopify integration. We have a YouTube video of that somewhere. However, we will do a webinar on Shopify. We can make that happen, certainly. So thank you very much. And everybody have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.